Every morning, before you even finish your first cup of coffee, you place your trust in dozens of companies. The alarm clock on your phone, the electricity flowing through your home, the toothpaste you squeeze onto your toothbrush, the cereal you pour into your bowl, the bank holding your savings, the car waiting outside, the fuel inside its tank, the software running your computer, the airplane carrying thousands of passengers above your head. Every product, every service, every logo represents a promise that someone has done the right thing, that the food is safe, that the medicine works, that the airplane has been tested, that the financial reports are honest, that the numbers are real. Without trust, modern civilization simply couldn't function. Entire economies are built on an invisible agreement between companies and ordinary people. A simple belief. We won't lie to you. But history tells a very different story. Because behind some of the world's most respected brands, behind billion-dollar advertising campaigns, behind smiling CEOs, award ceremonies, magazine covers, and breathtaking headquarters, some companies were hiding secrets so massive that when the truth finally surfaced, it shook entire industries, destroyed retirement funds, ruined families, cost innocent people their lives, and erased billions of dollars, almost overnight. Most people imagine corporate scandals as simple mistakes, an accounting error, a defective product, poor management. But the biggest scandals in history didn't begin with accidents. They began with decisions. Someone looked at a problem, calculated the cost of telling the truth, calculated the profit of hiding it, and chose the lie. Not once, not twice, but every single day. Sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. Imagine standing inside one of the tallest office buildings in New York, floor after floor filled with brilliant minds. Lawyers, economists, engineers, executives, thousands of employees, everyone working toward the same goal, creating the image of success. And somewhere, behind one closed office door, one small decision changes everything. A financial report is slightly altered. One safety test is ignored. One software update is secretly modified. One scientist is told to stay quiet. One engineer is ordered not to ask questions. One whistleblower is silenced. At first, nobody notices. The company keeps growing. The stock price rises. Investors celebrate. The CEO appears on television. Employees receive bonuses. Customers remain happy. Everything looks perfect. Until it isn't. Because lies have something in common. No matter how carefully they're hidden, they grow. Each lie demands another, then another, then another, until the truth becomes too expensive to hide. And when that moment finally arrives, the collapse is almost always spectacular. Markets crash. Governments investigate. Executives disappear. Employees lose everything. Headlines spread across the world within minutes. And millions of people ask the same question. How did nobody see this coming? The answer is surprisingly simple, because trust can blind us. Tonight, we're not talking about conspiracy theories. We're not talking about internet rumors. Every story you're about to hear actually happened. Court documents, government investigations, financial records, internal emails, whistleblower testimony, real evidence. Real victims, real consequences. These aren't stories about small businesses. These were giants, companies worth billions, companies people admired, companies that seemed untouchable. Until the truth finally caught them. A luxury boardroom, rows of expensive suits, flashing cameras, stock exchanges, factory production lines, airplanes taking off, cars rolling off assembly lines, scientists inside laboratories, television interviews, smiling CEOs shaking hands with politicians, magazine covers calling them visionaries. Everything appears perfect, but appearances can be engineered, because behind every corporate empire, there is one asset more valuable than money, more valuable than technology, more valuable than factories: trust. Lose money and you can recover. Lose customers and you can advertise. Lose products and you can rebuild. Lose trust and sometimes there is no coming back. Our first story begins in Texas, where one company wasn't just successful, It was considered the smartest company in America. Business schools wanted to become it. Investors wanted to own it. Governments wanted to work with it. Journalists praised it. Employees believed they had found the safest future imaginable. For years, everything about the company looked flawless. The profits, the innovation, the leadership, the ambition. There was only one problem. Almost none of it was real. And when the illusion finally shattered, it became one of the biggest corporate disasters the world had ever seen. Its name? Enron. Fade to black. Enron, the company that fooled America. The year was 1985. At first, Enron looked like just another energy company. It bought and sold natural gas. Nothing about it seemed extraordinary. But behind the scenes, a different vision was beginning to take shape. Its executives didn't just want to become the biggest energy company in America. They wanted to reinvent the entire industry. And for a while, it looked like they had done exactly that. Throughout the 1990s, Enron transformed itself from a traditional pipeline operator into what many believed was the future of global energy. The company traded electricity, natural gas, broadband, water, even weather derivatives. If something could be bought or sold, Enron wanted to build a market for it. Wall Street loved the idea. Investors poured billions of dollars into the company. Its stock price climbed higher every single year. Financial analysts called Enron one of the safest investments in America. Business magazines praised its leadership. For 6 consecutive years, Fortune magazine named Enron the most innovative company in America. Its headquarters in Houston became a symbol of ambition. Inside, thousands of employees worked in an atmosphere unlike any other corporation. Competition was fierce. Performance was everything. Success was rewarded with enormous bonuses. Failure could cost you your career. But beneath the confidence, something wasn't adding up. The company kept reporting spectacular profits, quarter after quarter, year after year. Yet, surprisingly, very little cash was actually coming in. Instead of asking difficult questions, most investors celebrated the rising share price. As long as the numbers looked impressive, no one wanted to challenge the story. And that was exactly what Enron's executives were counting on. Because behind the glossy annual reports, the company had built one of the most sophisticated accounting schemes in corporate history. Losses weren't reported. They were hidden. Debt wasn't eliminated. It was simply moved somewhere else. Using hundreds of complex partnerships and off-the-books entities, Enron created the illusion that it was making billions. In reality, many of its businesses were losing money, but investors never saw those losses. Every quarter, executives found another way to move the numbers, another way to delay reality, another way to convince the world that everything was perfect. Inside the company, some employees began to notice that things didn't make sense. Projects that were clearly failing were somehow generating profits on paper. Financial statements became so complicated. Even experienced analysts struggled to understand them. But questioning success was dangerous. Those who raised concerns often found themselves ignored, marginalized, or pushed out. Meanwhile, millions of ordinary Americans continued buying Enron stock. Many employees invested their entire retirement savings in the company. After all, if the executives believed in Enron, why shouldn't they? But there was one critical difference. While employees were encouraged to keep buying shares, several top executives quietly began selling millions of dollars worth of their own stock. The warning signs were there. Almost nobody noticed. Then, everything started to unravel. In 2001, an internal executive named Sharon Watkins wrote a confidential letter to CEO Kenneth Lay. Her warning was simple. If the accounting practices continued, the company could collapse in one of the biggest scandals in history. She wasn't exaggerating. Only weeks later, journalists, regulators, and investors began asking questions that Enron could no longer avoid. Suddenly, the partnerships were exposed. The hidden debt became public. The profits vanished. the illusion disappeared almost overnight. Within months, Enron's stock price collapsed from more than $90 to less than $1. Employees watched helplessly as their retirement savings disappeared. Some lost everything they had spent decades building. Thousands of people were laid off. Families lost homes, careers ended. Entire lives changed forever. At the time, it was the biggest corporate collapse in US history. Some were convicted of fraud. Others received lengthy prison sentences. Enron didn't fail because of bad ideas. It failed because the truth had been replaced by illusion. But Enron was only the beginning. Another company, on the other side of the Atlantic, was preparing a deception that would fool millions. Its name, Volkswagen. Volkswagen. The car that learned how to lie for decades. Volkswagen wasn't just another car manufacturer. It was a symbol of German engineering, precision, reliability, quality. Millions of people around the world believed that if a car carried the Volkswagen badge, it could be trusted. Families bought them. Governments promoted them. Environmentalists even began to see Volkswagen as proof that diesel engines could become cleaner. The company promised a revolution: powerful engines, excellent fuel economy, low emissions. It sounded too good to be true, because it was. During the early 2000s, governments around the world introduced stricter environmental regulations. Automakers faced enormous pressure: either build cleaner engines or lose billions in sales. For Volkswagen, the stakes couldn't have been higher. The company had one ambitious goal: become the largest car manufacturer in the world. Missing emission targets wasn't an option. Losing market share wasn't an option. Admitting failure wasn't an option. So instead of redesigning the engine, someone made a different decision. A decision that would eventually become one of the most expensive corporate scandals in automotive history. Engineers developed a hidden piece of software. At first glance, it looked harmless, invisible, just a few thousand lines of code. But this software had one extraordinary ability. It could recognize when the vehicle was being tested in a laboratory. The steering wheel remained perfectly still. The wheels rotated in a predictable pattern. Speed followed a precise testing cycle. The software knew exactly what was happening. And the moment it realized that the car was undergoing an emissions test, everything changed. The engine switched into a special operating mode. Fuel injection changed. Emission controls worked at maximum capacity. Nitrogen oxide pollution dropped dramatically. The vehicle passed every official inspection. Regulators approved it. Customers trusted it. The world applauded Volkswagen's engineering. But the moment the test ended, the software quietly switched back. On real roads, driven by real people, the cars produced far more pollution than legally allowed. In some cases, up to 40 times the legal limit. For years, no one noticed. Millions of diesel vehicles were sold across Europe, North America, and beyond. Advertising campaigns proudly described them as environmentally friendly. Customers believed they were helping the planet. Instead, many were unknowingly driving some of the dirtiest diesel cars ever produced. Then, everything began to fall apart. In 2014, researchers at West Virginia University conducted independent emissions testing on several diesel vehicles. What they discovered made no sense. Laboratory results and real-world driving produced completely different numbers. At first, many assumed it was simply a technical error, equipment malfunction, testing inconsistencies, but repeated experiments revealed the same shocking pattern, again and again and again. Something inside the vehicles was behaving differently during official testing. Investigators started digging deeper. Months later, the truth emerged. Volkswagen had intentionally installed what regulators called a defeat device, software specifically designed to cheat emissions tests. The announcement sent shockwaves through the global automotive industry. Within hours, Volkswagen's stock price collapsed. Billions of dollars disappeared. The biggest lies aren't always told by criminals. Sometimes they're told by the world's most trusted companies. And this is only the beginning. See you in the next documentary.